So there's this guy. So this is Colonel Douglas McGregor. And who is he? He's a very respected guy inside the military. He wrote a book called Breaking the Phalanx. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, it was about all the reforms that needed to happen inside the military. And so what he was doing was challenging the status quo by writing that. And it hurt him, his chances for promotion. So I guess that's why he's a colonel and not a general. Because he wrote,
Maverick.
Yeah, because he wrote that book that challenged the status quo. But in 2009, when Donald Rumsfeld appointed Tommy Franks to be the head of the Defense Department, he made a meet with Colonel McGregor to talk about that book and his ideas. So this guy's very well respected. He's he knows everything to know about everything in the military. He's been telling the truth about Ukraine. He's been one of the few people telling the truth about Ukraine, which is why you don't see him on CNN, MSNBC, or ABC. He has been brought on. We've showed you when he's been brought on Fox News, and then he tells the truth, and they like freak out. Stuart Varney, like, oh my God, why are you saying that?
You don't think Zelensky's a hero?
Yes, remember that? He's like, you don't think Zelensky?
Broken?
Yeah. And he said, no, Zelensky's a coward. So here's what he has to say about Ukraine. And again, this is not something they're going to show you on CNN. I haven't seen anything close to this. Here we go.
They're going to win, and they're destroying NATO. They're tearing Europe apart. Europeans are finally beginning to wake up to the disaster. They've lost control of Eastern Europe. You have the Lithuanians who want to cut the Russians off from East Prussia, or this place called Kaliningrad. You have Russian retired officers now calling for Putin to commit nuclear weapons to the defense of Kaliningrad. At the same time, you have the Poles who continue to advocate for greater violence against Russia and greater support for the non-existent Ukrainian state. Because let's face it, Ukraine is now a failed state. It's collapsed. People are being pushed at gunpoint into Russian fire. This whole thing is a disaster. But no one wants to admit failure because they know once they admit failure, they lose all credibility. Well, of course, obviously, we could have paid attention to what Mr. Putin was saying and had been saying for literally a decade. I mean, this goes back to 2008 in Budapest and the Munich Security Conference, where he effectively said, we cannot accept what you're doing. We will not tolerate the presence of NATO forces, particularly U.S. forces, on our borders. We could have listened to that. There was always the opportunity to say, we don't need Ukraine. We don't need.
So that was everything he said in there was pretty stunning. And of course, he says that we provoked this. Everybody knew this was going to happen. And now they act like it's just a naked act of aggression by Putin. He woke up one day and says, I want to invade the Ukraine. No, this has been provoked by NATO and the United States intentionally so this would happen. That we wanted this to happen, the NATO and the United States. We've been provoking this. We've been funding a war on the Donbass since 2014. We've been funding it. And they brag about it. That's not a secret. And we've been funding Nazis to go kill people in Donbass. That's what's been happening since 2014-15. And I'm going to play this again because it's everything he says is pretty stunning. And I don't even know what podcast this is from. I just came across it on Twitter. But I've seen him on Fox News. I've seen him, Jackson Hinkle has featured Douglas McGregor. Let's listen again.
They're going to win, and they're destroying NATO. They're tearing Europe apart. Europeans are finally beginning to wake up to the disaster.
So this is a disaster for the United States. We have inflation and sky-high energy prices. They don't care. The oligarchs don't care. Just as George Carlin said, they do not give an F about you. And this is all about their money grab, right? So, and it's killing the economies in Europe. And he's saying they're waking up to that. The ruble is stronger than it's been ever since before the war. And of course, the dollar, they want to devalue it. So this is crazy what's happening. And he's getting it right. Here we go.
They're going to win, and they're destroying NATO. They're tearing Europe apart. Europeans are finally beginning to wake up to the disaster. They've lost control of Eastern Europe. You have the Lithuanians who want to cut the Russians off from East Prussia or this place called Kaliningrad. You have Russian retired officers now calling for Putin to commit nuclear weapons to the defense of Kaliningrad. At the same time, you have the Poles who continue to advocate for greater violence against Russia and greater support for the non-existent Ukrainian state. Because let's face it, Ukraine is now a failed state. It's collapsed. People are being pushed at gunpoint into Russian fire. This whole thing is a disaster. But no one wants to admit failure because they know once they admit failure, they lose all credibility.
So I'll take that guy's word for it that he's a truth teller because again he's wasn't allowed to become a general and he's being kept off television, corporate television, which is financed by the military-industrial complex. So I'm going to say that's over. Ukraine has collapsed. Everybody knows this. And now we're just trying to milk this conflict for as long as they can. And my theory is this is all about, well, Chomsky says the only reason NATO exists anymore is to ensure energy transfers and secure and to protect shipping lanes. That's it. It's not about protection from Russia. It's about energy. It's about oil. It's about liquefied natural gas. That's what this is about. If you want to know what this is about, that's what this is about. So we could sell more to Europe. Russia sells 40% of their energy to Europe. We want a part of that. That's what this is about. Anything else you have to say about this, Kurt?
It's just crazy that this could be like. I know people that are like investing in things in Ukraine right now, and I'm like, do you have a contact over there that you believe is real and you're not just
right? July 3rd, we're doing a live show in Los Angeles, and then we're going to Chicago, Sacramento, San Diego, Bakersfield. See you there. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com for a link for all our tickets.